Here's a question I have for you, Luke. You made the bold claim about the Satanist influence in the music industry. And we hear a lot of this stuff from back in the day about like playing records backwards and there's like a secret message. But what's going on? What information you got?
I don't ever claim to know what's going on. I just have a lot of questions that I think should be answered.
All right, what are your questions about Satanism
I think specifically people in the music industry, are exposed to a lot of the insider dealings that we aren't privy to, and that's why I was kind of looking to ask you guys what you guys seen, because I think it's pretty clear there is some kind of satanic demonic influence, whether it's just done as parody or whether there's some deeper meaning to it. You see the lyrics, you see the symbology, and it's overt, and you see a lot of the same things, a lot of the same lyrics saying I sold my soul to the devil. I don't claim to know exactly what's going on here, but being in the music industry, how do you guys see it?
Well, real quick, I'm going to get a button for my Stream Deck that plays a sound bite from Boondock Saints when Willem Dafoe says symbolism when the guy says symbology.
That's a good movie.
That was a good movie. So yeah, what's going on, man?
So we see it too. I mean, look at the biggest artists in the world are getting on the MTV Movie Awards, and then you look at the subliminal messages behind. You look at even Disney. They did something in the Cruella de Vil movie that had like Satan on the front on entrance of her house, like you know what I mean, or the car, like there's all these little devil references, and then in music, listen to the lyrics, listen to some of the most popular artists in the world. You got Billie Eilish with a title, her song's called "I'm the Bad Guy," right? My daughter is listening to that. She's 7-8 years old. I'm the bad guy, Dad. You've got the most popular rappers talking about overdosing on drugs. You've got these are the messages that the kids listening are falling into, right? That's first of all, those are the biggest artists in the world that they're promoting. And then you look at the fashion side of things. What was his name? Lil Nas X is on there with blood in his shoes.
And they're what are they called? Their hooves. They have the split in the toes.
Cloven, is that?
Cloven.
Yeah.
Dressed in all red. Dressed in all. Then they also say there's satanic rituals with the white and black floors in the videos. Like if you look at some of the biggest artists in the world, like it might be Jay-Z might be one of them. You almost get scared to say some of these people's names. When they shoot the videos, they say that they shoot some of these videos on the black and white floors and all this stuff. Like these places are where like rituals happen, where there've been like sacrifices. Like you hear these rumors in the music industry, and I don't think a lot of it's rumors. I think that there is.
But check this out. Something changed, and maybe it was an anomaly, but I remember when I was little, the first CD I ever got, Americana, Offspring. And so they have a hit song. It's a huge song. It's called The Kids Aren't All Right. And the song is literally just lamenting the demise of like the family and urban decay. It's literally him singing a song about how these kids, nothing's free, chances thrown, longing for what it used to be, like wanting to go back to another time, people doing drugs, getting pregnant, dropping out. That's what the song's about, and it's negative depictions of that. They had another song on that album that was a huge hit, Why Don't You Get a Job?
Yeah.
And then I'm like, I'm thinking about this a few years ago, and I was like, man, those guys were actually pretty conservative by today's standards. Then they put out a song a few years later called Hit That, which is a song lamenting the fact that lamenting hookup culture and that people aren't getting married anymore. And I'm like, these guys are like strangely traditionalist. But of course now today they're like, you're fired from the band because dude could not get a vaccine. But it's just weird to see that back in the 90s, aside from Pretty Fly for a White Guy, I don't know, there's a bunch of songs on that album that are just literally, like have a family and get a job, and don't let your kids do drugs.
I gotta say, I think Satan gets a bad rep. Lucifer in general. I think, well, firstly, I don't like evil. I don't like evil, and I don't like blood magic. I get pretty turned off by those things. But I think the propaganda of the Bible is like, there were some cultists that were taking psychedelics, Michael the Archangel and Lucifer and all these dudes and they were channeling God, communicating, but Michael was the leader. And eventually, maybe they were hoarding knowledge that they were like, it's too dangerous for them. They can't have the light. They can't have fire. You can't teach them how to make fire. Or maybe it's electricity. You can't give them flashlights. And Lucifer's like, no, you can't hoard knowledge from people. So he went and he's the light bringer. He brought the common people the ability to make light.
Satan and Lucifer are different.
So Lucifer I'm talking about, and Luciferianism or whatever. And then so he's like, and they cast him out, and then they demonize. They win. They go to war. There's a war over it, And then Michael wins, his cult wins, and then they write a book about it, and make him the most evil thing.
You going back to the first cancel culture ever? Are you
the
going
first
back
one?
to
It's
the
Lucifer,
first?
the first canceled dude.
I don't know, man. It sounds like propaganda, Ian.
Yeah, it sure does.
Look at Britney Spears. Look at
No, you sound like propaganda.
Oh, well, it's all propaganda, ain't it?
you know, Britney has come out and you know, the media will cover every single time her hair's a mess in public, or every time that she makes a video where she looks like she had a glass of wine. But she came out and did an entire interview about how she was at satanic rituals in the music industry, that she was at events where they did this. They had orgies with masks on. She came out and had said that she's seen this stuff with her own eyes. No media coverage. No one talked about it. Nothing. But you will see media coverage on when she looked crazy on TikTok doing a dance. So it's an interesting.
Is it blood magic?
Hold on.
Rabbit hole.
Hold on. A lot of those Disney stars that were brought up in the industry and became famous later on in their life, a lot of them are dealing with some significant problems, especially with their upbringing, especially with the industry that brought them up. And a lot of them do talk about a lot of abuse that happens to them, which I think is important to note and important to talk about. I don't know if you guys have any insight to that particularly.
No, just the same as you, right? You hear all the people, the child stars of the 80s and 90s. You know, were all paranoid, and they tell their stories about what happened to them. They were, you know, like, I think everyone knows the elephant in the room is that there are certain groups of powerful people in this world that like children, right?
Well, I mean, I can't attest for any of the theories
Epstein
that
and
were
his
all,
friends.
that
It's
were
a
all-
fact at this point. I mean,
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I have personal friends that literally, to them, sold their soul to the devil to become the best guitar player in the world, and their lives are ruined. So,
But they think they did. Is that what it is?
yeah,
Like,
they,
what did
they would prick their finger, put their blood on a contract, write a contract out, sign it, and they would say, "I sold my soul to the devil to become the greatest guitar player in the world." And now they're druggies somewhere in the street.
Blood
I mean,
magic.
whether you believe Satan or not, that person's life is ruined for what they believed in.
I don't like blood magic because blood's fascinating and people work with it. Like, my girlfriend works with blood. She does diabetes, will hook people up to machines and stuff. I think, Kara, if I'm getting that wrong, sorry about that. But she works with it, and it's a fascinating substance. But like Maria Abramovich does blood cooking, where they paint blood on the spirit cooking. And it's to get fascinated with blood, to love blood is one thing. We all got it. But to get obsessive with it is crazy.
Oh yeah, I pass
Or to
out.
do
I'm
spells.
like, blood, pass out.
Yeah, we're you can't do it without because it's magnetic. There's iron in it, so that's why we have these magnetic, dynamos. So these magnetic fields. A big part is because the iron in the blood. Man, that
Like in X-Men, when Magneto was too much iron in the blood, and then rips it out of his body, and then he makes little things, and he's flying around. Yeah, that's what
and then you get magic is magnetic. That prefix.
Well, there's a lot of people that even go as far as to compare music to mind control because of the repetitive nature of it, because of the symbology, because of the lyrics, because people listening and also seeing it as a form of entertainment, which of course makes them put their guard down, and they're able to, of course, subconsciously pick up a lot of the larger messaging. So there's a lot of conversations about that specifically. I don't know if you guys are aware of it, but another thing I wanted to also, if you want to if you want to go right ahead. But another thing I also wanted to talk about is a lot of artists and a lot of creative people usually say that their music or their art, they're usually just a vessel for it, and somehow when they're creating music or art, they have something else speak kind of through them. You see this kind of described a lot by a lot of very creative people. I don't know if you guys have any kind of examples of that.
I can confirm it 100%.
Yeah.
I feel like when I talk about the most successful songs I've ever had and that I've written in my life, I have to attach the word blessed to it, because these ideas came to me through like I'm a vessel, right? Like whether it's full melodies, choruses, lyrics, everything, just it just happens, and then it changes my life, and then it changes the lives of the listeners, the fans. I've had the most fulfilling stories I've ever gotten. Money aside, the things that have really fulfilled me the most in music is when someone comes up and says, your song "Somebody Wishes They Were You" changed my life. It made me look at life differently. I really appreciate and have more gratitude now, where I was thinking of doing something bad to myself, and then I heard some crazy stories along the way. I was thinking about doing something bad to myself, this song came on, I never heard of you before, it spoke to me, and then I went into a rehab and changed my life. Like, these are the stories that are priceless to me. These are the stories when we were out on the road and we were getting robbed for everything we had, you know, working 9 months out of the year, going home with nothing, you know, because we were signed all these terrible contracts. These were the stories that I'd lay in bed and I'd say, you know what, man, you might not have any money, you might be working hard, you might be, you know, sacrificing all your relationships with your lifelong friends, your wife, your family, but you're making an impact on people's lives. And that drove me for years. And yes, it was the vessel that helps write these songs. I can definitely say that there's a spiritual connection between being the vessel to writing songs and connecting to people.
And a definite energetic one that can't be really described in words, and a lot of people have a hard time even quantifying in sentences, because it's how do you describe this kind of this feeling, this emotion that overtakes a lot of people even when they listen to a particular song, which of course is usually connected with their emotions. So there's still so many other things I want to ask you. There's also of course the 432 hertz conspiracy. I don't know if you guys heard of that one.
That's
but
the key of that.
Yeah. There's a lot of different stuff out there, but you know, we're just touching the surface.
I gotta know,
let's talk
Trev,
about
when you drum, does it take over you?
Yeah, at a certain point. I mean, when a performance starts, you're focused, and then I mean, you could just contribute that to adrenaline as well. You know, like
he turns into a different person when he drums. I see it every night. There's like you watch someone go like Super Saiyan, you know, and like when Dragon Ball Z characters would like hit the gas and their hairs would go like blonde and they'd have a whole energy aura. That's what it's like watching him drum for 15 years for me, man. I see him start going and people are like, you guys got so much energy on stage. It's because he's feeding me, who already has all this energy. I'm feeding the crowd. It's like our shows, our live shows are like a ball of energy circulating throughout a room, and you know.
Well, let's talk about that 400 hertz conspiracy. What is that about, Luke?
Well, there's different theories out there. I haven't looked into it that much, but there's a theory that music used to be in a healing frequency, and then it was turned into a frequency that's more disruptive. You might know more about this than I do, because I just looked at the surface level of this.
It's one of those world elites, Rothschild or something, that changed the standard tuning from 432 hertz to 440 hertz. 432 hertz brings out the harmonic resonance of the notes, and you get a lot more harmonics and saturation in the musical notes, and all original music like Beethoven, all those original classic composers played in 432 hertz. Their pianos were tuned to 432 hertz. Even the Beatles did some 432 hertz music as well.
I pulled it up here. We got it from Global News, the great 440 hertz conspiracy and why all of our music is wrong. They say, gather around, kids. Those of you with tinfoil hats may wish to ensure that they're fitted snugly. What I'm about to tell you will shake your faith in all the music you've heard in your life. If you look down the right paths, it becomes clear that governments and various security apparatuses have used music to control us. Oh, no. All the music of the West that's based on the standard 12-tone scale is used for the management of crowds, as well as thought control. Ooh. They say if musical performances were to sound the same the world over, some standardization was required. As early as 1885, the Music Commission of the Italian government declared that all instruments and orchestras should use a tuning fork that vibrated at 440 hertz, which was different from the original standard of 435 and the competing 432 used in France. In 1917, the American Federation of Musicians endorsed the Italians, followed by a further push for 440 hertz in the 40s. In 1953, a worldwide agreement was signed. Signatories declared that the middle A on the piano be forevermore tuned to exactly 440 hertz. This frequency became the standard ISO 16 reference for tuning all musical instruments. So what is it? They say no one can say for sure. Why? So what's the conspiracy? What are you writing about?
Well, that's like it's driving people crazy.
Adherents to this theory claim the more natural frequency, or middle A, is 438. Others believe the correct middle is 432 because it is a pure tone of math fundamental to nature and is mathematically consistent with the patterns of the universe, vibrating with phi, the golden ratio. They point to how this pitch can be connected to everything from nautilus shells to the works of the ancients, including the constructs of the Great Pyramid. That proves it! So it's time to change all of our tunings.
The reason I brought this up is because I saw a scientific experiment, I think like 20 years ago when I was a child, and it had a box of sand and it put it over a speaker, and it played different hertz, and it played different music, and you could see the shape of the hertz of the music that was translated from the grains of sand that were moved through the speaker. And some of the sand was very disruptive and all over the place and really nasty, and some of it looked like snowflakes, pure, perfect, synchronistic images. And, you know, this is where we get into a lot of the bigger kind of deeper hippy-dippy stuff when it comes to What the Bleep Do You Know, and other kind of documentaries like Water the Great Mystery that, of course, talk about this in great detail when it comes to, perfectly aligned alleged healing frequencies. And that's what we hear sometimes. Again, I'm not an expert in this. I just remember this sitting here from 20 years ago.
It's called kymatics, is where you use sound to alter matter. Mm-hmm. What were you going to say?
So like when you tune from 440 to 432, that's 32 cents lower. So it gives it more of a slower feeling as well. So I create meditation, relaxation music with elevated, and everything's tuned to 432 hertz. And that works better for that style of music when you want to chill and you want to relax. 440 could be, you know, leveling it up to give it more energy. You know, it might not be no crazy conspiracy theory stuff. It could just be like, hey, we want more energy. Like I know that Kiss from a Rose, that's Seal, right?
Yeah.
He wanted his song, without changing the tempo, to have more energy. So he brought up his tuning to like 442. So he brought it up because he wanted to give it more energy with just tuning it up just a slight. Yeah, I mean, to like the untrained ear, you can't really tell. Not even from 440 to 430, you can't really tell. It's more of a feeling.
Yeah, soul and feeling is so important. That's why I think that it could be a little. I don't know enough about it, but I know I write from like just the soul, and I don't overthink that stuff too much when I'm going into a key or a range. So, and I know that's work. So maybe there's a lot of ways to eat a Reese's, right? You know.
Yeah, like I mean, think about colonization of the Native American population by the Europeans. Were the Native Americans chilling in 432, but
Native Americans were 432.
And so it didn't. The Native Americans were 432.
Yeah, if you go get a natural made Native American flute, it naturally comes in 432 hertz.
And they weren't out there engineering weapons, and I mean they had their own types, but not like the Europeans, not like gunpowder and explosives and physics to shoot cannons and like just that aggro go conquer take. Ugh. I wonder if that's
there was Native American tribes that were like that, Ian, that did conquer other tribes, that were very combative, that did enslave other populations, that did conduct human sacrifices.
Yeah, the Aztecs were brutal. They were way more brutal than the Europeans.
Brutal, yeah, but not technologically advanced.
They would rip people's hearts out on the top of pyramids, calling in their entities because they wanted better farming seasons.
But it's like the aggravation that prompts engineering. Like, I got to figure it out. Something's wrong. I got to figure it out. Whereas it's like, yo, something's wrong. No, something's fine. Everything's cool. Just chill. Like, that's the Native American style. Whereas the European would be like, something's wrong. Let's fix it.
But
I'm generalizing too, of course.
But that's just absolutely not true.
Yeah, they got drums, man.
You're talking about a population that solely lived in areas with winter, save the Mediterranean, and then you have North America with a wide range of different temperatures, especially in like the desert or the South where it's typically hot. Native Americans lived in Florida where it's tropical. So these things play a huge role in whether or not someone needs to strive towards something. You live in Florida, you don't got to worry all that much because the growing season is every day of every year. But for Europe, the growing season is they have to deal with winter. That means if you don't work, you don't survive. That's why they get technological advancements. There's no rage around it.
It was heavily populated too. True, because after the flood, 13,000 years ago, that flood wiped out America. Like all the population of North America got smeared, or at least the United States got smeared into tar by that glacial flood.
Pretty sure that's not true. I'm pretty sure that there was a massive pandemic that wiped out most of the Native American.
No, I'm talking about 12,800 years ago at the end of the last Younger Dryas. Randall Carlson's the guy to go to for the geological surveys on this stuff. But there's a layer of black sediment tar where all the megafauna of the giraffes and stuff were just smeared into dirt.
No, Ian, I'm sorry, you're wrong, because everybody knows that there was already a great civilization that was here, and this mud flood came and swept through and then buried those buildings, and we are only discovering them. That's why Chicago's underground. That proves it.
So my final question is, should we return the music to 432?
Yes. I hereby decree from this moment forward.
Do you guys
The
shoot
arbiter
your
of
music
music.
in that frequency, or do you guys have a
I
have
don't
no
know
idea.
because when you get a snark, a tuner, you put it on your guitar, it tells you that A is what it is.
Now-
it's just measuring 440.
Nowadays, it's very difficult to do your music in 440 because all the virtual instruments are naturally tuned to 440. So if you're
You
gonna
mean 432?
I mean, yeah, 432. Yeah. So if you're gonna go in and put virtual instruments on your recordings, you literally have to tune everything down to 432, and they make it really difficult.
Talking about
That proves it's a conspiracy. That's right.
Maybe.
when you talk about the brutality of history, like he's talking about, like people were overrunning civilizations and doing that. Doesn't it make you feel like our generation is being conditioned to not be prepared for anything like that? Like if right now I feel like if I said to someone, I'd be ready to fight for my household, or I'd be ready to defend Trevor, or do whatever, I would be looked at in a negative light, right? It would be like, oh, he's a toxic male, or whatever it may be, right? It feels that way nowadays. When you get ready for nothing, right? When you're like defensively prepared for stuff, it almost feels like we're being softened up pretty bad, our generation. I don't know. And when you talk about history back in the day, like people were brutalizing colonies and doing all this stuff. It's in history, and now you've got it like it's so frowned upon to be ready for anything like that. It's so you're like a loser. If
but just really quick, many people don't understand how blessed and how absolutely lucky we are, especially here in the United States, especially living here. You travel the world, other people are not living like this. We are fully overabundant, and we are living in extremely, to the contrary, good times that leads to weak men,
Right, I think
weak men that leads to bad times. And I think we're on that precipice where we're going into the bad times.
That's why we all have a responsibility to maintain the awesomeness of the United States so we can help the rest of the world.
Yes.
When Shays' rebellion was snapping off in 1778, all these farmers were like, no, I don't have the money to pay off your debts to France. We can't. They tried to seize their property. The farmers were like, hell no. They went to the courthouses. They surrounded them. They shut it all down. People were getting hurt. They ended up, but whatever. Someone sent Thomas Jefferson a letter, and they were like, "Yo, it's popping off. It looks like there's going to be a revolution." Thomas Jefferson was like, "Good. We need revolutions. It keeps the government honest." That was his response.
You used, like you said, it's great here, and you could use the rest of the world as an example, but it also puts a little fear in you, right? I don't want that here. When I think about the civilians of a place like China, I feel so bad for them. I feel like, when is a superhero going to go and liberate them, right? Like, I just don't want. I think that we're not getting closer to those people being, freed from this tyranny. I think we're getting closer to being run by tyranny in a sense, except our generation right now, us, the people listening, the next batch of people that are ready to just speak about it, openly talk about what's happening, and be as prepared as you can be, right? We don't want to go to war or do anything crazy, right? Obviously, that's what it seems the powers that be want, but we can't just not be ready, and we can't just not be understanding that in the rest of the world it's this type of way, and we're the only place that isn't that type of way. Like, my fear is losing how great it is and what we have, losing our liberty, losing our freedom. Who is, if we're all being conditioned not be ready to fight for that, or ready to stand up for these things, and we're always just standing down, who can be brave?
Yeah, we have a gift and we're taking it for granted. The First Amendment, the Second Amendment is rare. Many civilizations, many countries, many empires never had those kind of liberties that they allowed citizens to have a part of their organizations. Now, one of the first times we're experimenting with freedom, and now there's a sinister group that wants to take it away from us, which is absolutely insane.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.